This is Aj McGinty, and you're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate. Enjoy.
You're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate, a Bristol Bears podcast made by fans for fans. We're 3 season card holders at Ashton Gate. We love the club, the game, and all things Bears. This week, we review the start of the Premiership with the gritty but points profitable win away at Newcastle Falcons. Solid start with plenty of learnings, or as good as you might expect given the time of year, the price, and the fact that they're coached by Steve Diamond. We read our listener thoughts, both poetic and prosaic, and also analyse our man of the match, Bennard Janse Van Rensburg post-match thoughts. Next stop is Ashton Gate for the first renewal of the Rifles Cup, and we hear from Ed Price from the Cherry Down pod before discussing our predictions for the game. All this and more. I'm Pete, and I'm joined by Lee and Miles for a cheeky beer and a bit of rugby banter live from the Bristol Beer Factory Taproom Studio Bar. Well, lads, we're back again and we're supping some nice beers. I think we all got the same thing tonight, didn't we?
We all got the same.
Yeah, what was it? It was a pint of Twin Fin.
Twin Fin. Which
5%?
Is, 5% IPA.
Yeah.
Which is actually, I don't know what you think, boys, but I quite like that.
I thought it was nice.
It's quite lively.
It slipped down quite quickly, isn't it, already?
It has slipped
lovely
down.
Stuff.
Yeah, well, we're only allowed 1 pint, boys.
We should say that we have, Miles has brought a bit of tidbit food for us as well.
Well, he has.
hasn't
I was going to say, Miles, you've been kind of doing something quite interesting today, Sunday. And tell us what you've been up to.
Been to the races. Well, that's not true. I've been to Newbury, which is obviously home of some races, but I was actually watching ferret racing.
Honestly,
ferret race.
Is that something the upper classes do? Ferret racing?
Well,
amongst other things.
Anyway, and you say that, but my young lad, he put a quid on and he doubled his winnings, lads. I mean, he's got the betting gene already, not mine, Lee's obviously. And I've come back from a county fair, doffing my cap to Van Rensburg with some fine South African biltong, of which we are enjoying. Trying not to have the sort of chomping sound on the pod, obviously, but it's good stuff.
Well,
good stuff.
For long-time listeners will know we can't have another Nutgate, can we?
No.
Anyway, Lee, what about you? What have you been up to this weekend?
I just want to quickly say to Miles' son Toby, we should say if he's won at Newbury today, then the best thing for him at his young age is to quit right now. Because it doesn't get any better.
I agree.
Fair play.
I mean, I've got nothing exciting to add to that, really. I've just had quite a chilled weekend, which has been quite nice.
To be honest, Lee, the reason we did this pod in the first place, because basically nothing exciting happens in our lives anyway. So that kind of is exactly the sort of answer I was expecting.
But it's been nice, though, because like usually I'm rushing around or I'm working, and it's been lovely. And obviously, we should mention Friday night kicked it all off for us, didn't it?
It did. I mean, it's been nice to have a bit of pre-season chat, but it's good to get going. And of course, there you go, mate. You've given us the nice link to get into the pod. So obviously, first game of the season up at Newcastle. We're going to talk about it in a minute, but I sent out the normal short, sharp summaries, clarion call, and was very pleased to get many responses, both
Good.
Poetic and prosaic. To be fair, mainly the same people that always do it, but they're so good. They're so good, and I think we've got to acknowledge this. So I'm going to go through them, and I'm going to start with the acrostics first, and we do have some serious high-level acrostic compilers. So of course we know full well that the Hambley brothers. They don't just love an acrostic, but they love competition against each other. So in no particular order, it's just the way I kind of finished reading it. The first one, and the thing is, boys, I'm going to read them out, and you two have got to guess what the word is.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right, so listen carefully.
And
So we need
no
to
writing down. We need to
switched on.
So this is from Robin Hambley, which is at Hambley79, and here we go. Flounder in Newcastle, AJ to Max, chef's kiss, lost momentum with all the scrums, can rely on Bernard all day, every day, officials were hit and miss, nice finish from the tank on the flank, starting with a win is always nice.
Got it.
What was it?
It's Falcons.
It's
isn't it?
Falcons.
But you tried to trick us in what, third line now?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Okay, so let's
Caught me out.
moving swiftly on to Hammy Hambley at official JAH. Bit of a shorter one, this one, so get ready. Happy fan base, officials dubious, on the road win. Plenty of improvement needed. Scrappy but a well-deserved 5 points.
Hoops.
It's Hoops.
Well done, Miles.
Brilliant.
Well done.
Okay, let's go straight on to Marcus Watts, a long-time listener of the pod, at Watts MF. He didn't even type it into Twitter direct. He had obviously typed it on another program, screenshotted it, and then inserted the photo in. So he obviously took a lot of time drafting this.
I'm not being funny, Marcus, but you're not getting bonus points for that.
But that to me says drafting and redrafting, which, as a teacher, I recommend that's a good way to get to it. Anyway, here we go. So another one. I'll give you a little bit of a clue. It's actually 3 short words, this acrostic. Okay, so here we go. We were rusty, early try but stuttered thereafter. Our referees trained in scrum laws, Randall everywhere and deserves more caps, exquisite finishes from Max and Seaver. Bennard's invaluable contributions, AJ's ribs got home before the rest of him, crucial bonus point gained, kick on versus Gloucester.
I got it.
What is it?
We are back.
We are back.
We are back.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that was good actually.
So
I like
good.
that. Yeah.
Okay, we've got listeners may or may not be pleased to know we have one more acrostic, and this is a bit of a longer one. So focus. This is from another long-time listener, Dan Masters at Spaniel Masters. We often see him down here. He is a tap room fan. So here we go. It's quite long, this one. Any spare ribs for AJ? Nualango's one-handed dive. Dunny's pop pass for Jimmy. What a catch from Malins. Ellis the torpedo. Rensburg continues to shine. Eyes on the shirt. Our Harry the pocket rocket. Falcons falter again. Friday can't come soon enough. Brackets, especially as it's my birthday. That's really difficult.
You lost me.
I didn't break it up. It was actually, and we... Oh, he's mucked it up. Do you know what I've realised? It should be. That's why. Dan, you've mucked it up.
That's why
it
we
shouldn't
couldn't get it, Miles.
And we are off. But he's missed out. He's done A.
I think Pete's off.
A and D is good. WE is good. And we. And then he's forgotten the A. And it's just put R-E rather than A-R-E. And then he's done
That's why we
O-F-F.
lost
But you
it.
can't be happy as a teacher. Come on.
That is appalling.
Surely he's got to go down a grade now.
That
I
is,
think, Dan.
I think I'm going to.
We need to have
he needs
words.
to have some extra tuition. Oh well. Anyway, Dan, we do appreciate your effort. Though.
Yes,
good
we
for
do.
effort. Good
Yes.
for effort. Okay, and then quickly, let's get on to some of the responses to my short, sharp summaries, clarion call that were mainly just normal people just writing prose. So we had Briz at Brisley, 5 points away at Newcastle, brackets where we seem to struggle, is a good start.
Yeah.
Definitely looked rusty and seemed to overplay at times instead of keeping it controlled. Jib, cutter was James Dunn, gets better each game he plays.
Yeah.
Person who widened the fine margins was AJ and Malins. Max's second try was fantastic. And then solid BJV.
Good shout. Good
Stop.
shout.
And then
Dr.
next
Miles.
one we had Steve Bold at O2 Baldy. Said an away bonus point win was the aim and that's in the bag. Thought Steve Luatua was brilliant on the night. Penalty count stunted us and we looked like we were trying too hard sometimes and didn't flow. That will come hopefully next week when the Rifles Cup must be retained. Nice one, Baldy. Couple more. Cycle fan at Baxter Anthony. Often interacts with us. Scrappy game. When did Heenan make a last start? Away kit looks good. 5 bonus points was fantastic. Come on Friday. So
Yeah.
nice. And then a new person actually, not recognised this handle. It was Moaka at Moaka88. Great win. Newcastle defence looked decent all game, but was great to not concede and not really look like conceding. Inability to play the officials will be a problem against a better team, even when you disagree with interpretation. Randall, JVRB, excellent as always. So yeah, nice there.
That's good points as well.
we had. I did put the thing out on Instagram as well. We did have one reply on Instagram, a comment from somebody else who I've never heard of, whose handle was Southwest Dog Skills. Takes all sorts.
Are we going to expand on that?
And also, all Southwest Dog Skills said on Instagram was, we'll always take an away win at Newcastle. One or teams may come unstuck as the season goes on. And he didn't put a hashtag saying not short or sharp. But I thought that is pretty short or sharp. So I'm not quite sure Moaki or our Southwest.
And actually,
maybe it was a dog.
It could be a day.
It could be a dog.
Maybe he couldn't reach the
It might have been Stan.
It could have been Stan.
He was watching it with me.
Could this be the first time in history that a rugby fan podcast has got an actual dog as a follower? I mean, last time we said God was following us, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah. So we also, God, dog, yeah, it could be the same person. Right, anyway, but finally we did have one more. I just wanted to read it out.
It's a more sensible one.
It was Bob Slot, and no offence to Bob, but I suspect he's slightly more elderly because his handle is also Bob Slot. So his name is Bob Slot and his handle is Bob Slot. And Bob said 5 points and back to Bristol. That was it.
Short and sharp. That is short and sharp.
And to be fair to Bob, that's probably, he's like you said, short,
summed
sharp.
it up.
And that is short and sharp. So cheers. I mean, it was almost a haiku, that.
Yeah.
But maybe it was. I don't know.
Very, very
but
true.
really, really appreciate that. And obviously appreciate everybody who makes an effort. And it has become a little bit of a thing. And now I wake up after a game thinking, I've got to remember to put this out.
Yeah.
And actually, I think somebody even put it out before I'd even put out the short, sharp summary.
So it was one of the Hambley brothers.
The Hambley brothers had already done it.
Oh,
so,
actually, yeah. I
Well,
was going to say
saying that, Hamley brother got a season ticket now, haven't they? So we'll.
we would definitely,
forward to meeting
feel
them.
that we ought to meet them at some point.
Absolutely.
Because, although they do say, I mean, we
might
ought
talk.
to. I think the effort they've made is quite important. So
Well, maybe they won't want to meet us because
maybe not.
obviously, if you meet your heroes,
that's what they say.
sometimes-
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
no, but
we
I know,
might
but
let them down.
they're my heroes because they're so good at poetry. Anyway, right, we've got a nice long lead into the game, boys. We've had some thoughts from the fans. We all watched it on TV in various places. So yeah, I mean, let's pick up on some of these points. I mean, I'll start with you, Lee. I mean, I think a couple of people made the point that it wasn't as fluent as perhaps we might have thought, given the end of last season. But at the end of the day, 5 points, a bonus point win at Newcastle is something you can't sort of disregard.
Yeah. I mean, I think obviously first game of the season, we're going to use the term we normally use is ring rustiness, isn't it? I mean, you're going to have some of that anyway. We were expecting that, but I actually thought. I mean, in the breakdown we were a little bit slow, admittedly, but I thought the offloading was actually really, really sharp for a first game of the season. And again, it's work-ons. I mean, we all knew it was going to be a tough game. I have to admit, we were chatting to Miles on, we were walking down, and that first half was hard watching, wasn't it? There was a couple of mistakes that we'd made, and we could have probably gone into halftime, a few points more up. And then for them to get a penalty right at the end, you're thinking, oh no, I hope it's not going to be frustrating again like it was last year. But I thought actually, on the whole, I was really positive, and I was actually quite optimistic going into the game.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, what about you, Miles? What are your thoughts? Your general thoughts after the game?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough, to put a sort of cliche. We beat what was put in front of us, weren't we?
Or you can only beat what's put in front of you.
Absolutely.
Or lose.
We discussed on the previous pod that, Steve Dimes is a tough old cookie, isn't he? And I think post interview, he was disappointed, wasn't he? He said, I didn't think Bristol would get that many points on us. And I mean, I don't remember, we were chatting, I don't remember the last time we got a 5-point bonus victory at Newcastle. Long.
It's not been a great place.
It's not been a great
It's not been a
place.
happy hunting ground.
Happy hunting ground. It was tough. There was that horrible plastic pitch, wasn't there, which didn't really go well with our scrummaging, and we'll chat about that in a bit. A lot of errors. You're absolutely right. I mean, the penalty count was up to about 15 or 18 or something to that effect. And they stifled our sort of classic running way, and I thought they did pretty well. You're right, the first 60 minutes I didn't enjoy watching it all. That one great try, I thought it would lead to another quite quickly, but it didn't. Eventually got there, but not a classic, but job done. Really, job done.
No, I think we can't knock a bonus point win. I mean, I think Steve Diamond actually, in his heart of hearts, be quite disappointed with that. I think he'd given it the large that he's cut his squad down. He said, "I've got warriors. I've got people that And they clearly had a game plan to stifle and obstruct and slow things down, which, you know, fair play to them. I got nothing against them for doing that. They didn't win a game last season. Yeah. And they probably thought we would try and come and run and offload. And I think we did. I've got to say, I'm really pleased, though, that that's what we did.
Yeah.
Because we've shown intent. Now, you know, the intent was there. I think there's a couple of, and it was disappointing to be 5-3 down at half time in a way.
Yeah,
We're kind of hoping
5-3 up.
5-3 up, sorry. But having scored early. But I mean, we did. They did pump our line a little bit in the first half, and we defended well, didn't we? And I think we've got to look at that and say that was a real plus point. You know, so I thought the first half was the kind of first half we needed to really get us, like the boys, remembering that it's not, you know, this is a proper league, and you can have like a nice little training time up at behind closed doors up at the HPC. But I think that first half kind of dusted off the cobwebs.
We're going to mention the white elephant in the room.
Go on then.
Well, I mean, a lot of we're talking about Newcastle stifling our play, and we should mention it scrums actually. I mean, the refereeing wasn't great, was it? And I actually blame the touch judge on a lot of it, because, you know, you could quite obviously see Genji being pulled down on so many occasions, and it wasn't picked up. So you can see the referee was on the opposite side. Fair enough, he wouldn't see it, but that's how you have, you know, that's why you have officials that can see it on their side, and it wasn't pulled. And I get I get the reason Falcons are doing that. But it was just a little bit annoying when you're watching it and you're thinking it's so blatantly obvious, and we weren't getting these decisions. And I felt that kind of made the game, especially like Miles has said, the first 60 minutes, it made it muddly, and it made it kind of not flowing, and not, you know, we weren't able to then push on and play the type of rugby we wanted to play. And it was stop-start, wasn't it? But I do feel the officials do need to look at themselves.
I mean, stop-start always stops momentum, and we are a momentum team. We need to get momentum, and we need to keep it. And I think the first half was frustrating like that. I actually thought the second half we were very composed, and I think at half time they obviously talked about how they were going to deal with that, and in the end I think Falcons kind of ran out of puff. We just had better players.
I think they ran out of fitness,
and I think I think we were clinical, and actually think of all of our tries weren't grunt tries. They were quality clinical tries where we take the opposition apart.
I mean, we didn't, you know, there were no sort of pushover maul tries, were there? All sort of classic running tries. You're right. It's hard to see whether Falcons got under our skin or the officiating got under our skin. And it's probably the latter. Like, you could tell Genji was flipping frustrated. There was a lot of chat from from our captain, from Harding to the ref, who wasn't liking it until putting us back 10 metres. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think better officiating would have led to a better flowing match. You know, that's where it led, and it wasn't a great watch, but we got there in the end, didn't we?
One thing we should say that was really vitally important, and I tweeted this out, is actually getting the extra bonus point.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, we all last season we said, how many times did we get so close to getting another bonus point? We didn't. And we could have been top 4 last season. And it was so important for me that we actually got, you know, Malins had gone over and caught that ball and gone over and got the extra scoring bonus point. And I thought that is I'm going to ding myself. That's those little fine margins that we talked about.
I think the other positive thing is that the defence. I mean, they scored 3 points.
Yeah.
Like that. They scored 3 points, and they scored no points in the second half at home.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's also very good. And actually, when you think about it, this whole thing about us playing the Bears way and throwing it around and offloading, it has to have a platform from the pack. And the pack were great as well at the end of last season. And I think you're starting to look at this thing where we've now got some players who are comfortable playing with each other, are coming in. This whole kind of famed system is actually, I think, I feel confident in the pack that they know what they're doing, and I feel like I just thought that it wasn't perfect, but it was a competent and mature performance.
A step in the right direction,
and I
sure.
think that I thought it was. I came away, feeling pretty positive about the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, Bernard Janse Van Rensburg got man of the match. I think we'll all, Dave Flatman gave it, didn't he? I think he was co-comms. And I loved his phrase. He said, he does the bits and pieces well. And it's so true.
Yeah.
He's like an 8, 9 out of 10 every game, never gets injured sort of guy. So he kind of deserves it for that. But yeah, who else do you think stood out? What other players do you think put in a good performance?
Well, one for me that stood out was Luatua. Because again, he typifies exactly what you've just said. He does all the bits and pieces. He's the nuts and bolts in the oil, isn't he? And it's
bits and pieces, nuts and bolts.
Well,
what else is there?
I know. I'm throwing them all out.
The odds and sods. He does the odds and sods.
He does all that.
Well done, Miles.
The odds and sods.
And he always has that kind of, when a player has that experience, they always are in the right place at the right time. And Luatua always seems to be there. Yeah. And I thought he was brilliant. Miles,
he was great. I thought Rans did a great job. He was a little pocket rocket, wasn't he, on that quite fast pitch. He ran through little gaps where he needed to, and he was in a solid performance. I mean, he did what he was great at. Fantastic,
Sharp, wasn't he?
He
was
sharp as ever, really, and he fed the ball. Yeah, so he was great. I mean, I know there was that massive tackle on AJ in the second half, wasn't there? We were all kind of you were tweeting that's he's a goner.
I think his ribs were put on a barbecue, weren't they, for a second?
He's not getting up from that. And of course, we all thought about exactly what happened the first game last season against Leicester when he did his hamstring. Yeah. And of course, the one thing we've all been saying in the pre-season is he's a great, fantastic 10, but we are a bit short. And of course, but fair play to the boy. He got up and he carried on.
I tweeted out biggest bollocks award of the night. That was, just to stay on the field.
If Lee took a tackle like that, he'd be out for a year, mate. Well, curtains, wouldn't he?
I mean, you think
he looks like he was vomiting on the pitch, didn't he?
I mean, you think these guys aren't as big as you think they are as well. And the hit he took, and you're thinking,
shoulder to ribs.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be sore as, isn't he, for the next couple of days? I mean, that was a massive hit.
Yeah. So, but
loved the commitment.
Totally illegal, but got up.
And so well done, Alan.
Yeah.
So dusted himself off and got on with it, and then obviously delivered an absolutely exquisite cross kick for Malins for our bonus point.
Yeah.
And again, around that time, I was thinking, I can just see us not quite. We're on top here.
You were a bit negative.
Not
actually.
quite. Well, I just thought, this is.
I'd settle for 4.
I mean,
I did say I'd settle for 4, but I didn't want us to get overly, get really uptight about it. It's like it's the first game. Let's not get uptight. And actually, it was very calmly done. It was the little cross kick job done, and also the try before that I thought we executed that try when we were on their line rather than just pumping with the forwards the whole time. That little round the back pass, Malin's come in on the overlap. It was fantastic try that.
What I liked about it as well was like we didn't over push it, did we?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It was almost like we naturally worked ourselves into that position to get that 5th point.
And this is why I've good fullback. I've always said the fullback is the overlap.
Yeah.
So you've just got to create. If he times his run right, by definition, if the other fullback, the opposition fullback, hasn't got there, he should have an overlap because he's there. So it was a classic fullback try, I thought.
And I did think actually Rich Lane was brilliant when he came on.
Wow, it was good.
He was so good.
The not just the Lane train. That was that he did that break down the left at the end. It was the Lane Express train.
HS2
from Newcastle to Bristol. Love it.
It was impressive. So I think. Now we start, and Nualango's little finish for that try. That was his rugby league in him, wasn't it?
It was, wasn't it? Diving over the
fantastic. But I do still think he's an enigma,
wrapped up in a mystery.
Yeah. I mean, It was in the first half when he slapped the ball away after he dropped the ball, and you just thinking, it's so
but that's so bizarre.
annoying.
But he seems like he's like the nicest guy as well.
Yeah,
so why would he do
absolutely.
that?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
absolutely. Frustration, but I just think he's got so much talent, and yet it's just not quite the full package. It's not as consistent as, say, like maybe a Heward for me, but that's thrown it out. That's just my opinion.
But I suppose, the reason Heward's injured, and I suppose one of the things for Nualangu, he hasn't played that much really when you think of all the injuries he's had, and actually he's probably, and I'm really giving him, I'm playing devil's advocate here, we need him to get, when he is fit, he still needs game time to learn his trade, and I think a game like that was good for him despite the the slap away and whatever. And I mean, he is a weapon. Well, he's a tank.
Yeah,
on the flank.
He is.
So I think that the more time he can get away with stuff, and it's going to be good for us in the long run.
And talking of smashes as well, we should mention Genji's smash on Callum Chick. I mean, he smashed him into next week already, didn't he?
That was just like, that was like Callum said to Genji, that was just like a Saturday night down the big market. That was. So that's why he took it well. He didn't really, he just got up with it. He's used to it.
Yeah.
But that was Genji. That's one of those ones. Yeah. That's why we watched rugby.
Genji looked nastier with that beard as well, didn't he?
It was almost like he's dyed it as well.
Yeah.
Like quite dark. He does
look
look.
He dyed it, all his bodily hair. Well, I don't know that.
Yeah.
I think
that was class.
I'm looking.
It's filth, isn't it?
I did like that. So, anything else we want to say? I think we've all agreed that we're very happy with it. There was what we've agreed is that there was the intent to play rugby.
Yeah,
we didn't revert to too much box kicking or any box kicking. We were obviously, but the forwards were a bit frustrated. But I think one thing we didn't mention actually was we all felt, and they probably admit it. They were a little bit slow at clearing out at the breakdown. We did. There was quite a few turnovers. Now, I think that's just a kind of ring rustiness, and that's a bit of match fitness. And I think they'll be quicker at Gloucester. So let's hope that's not going to be a big thing.
They have to be,
and they'll know that. That was pretty obvious, I think. But really, I think that was as good as we could have hoped, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, couldn't have got 6 points, could we?
No.
So we couldn't.
You're right.
Actually, we couldn't.
Statistically, you're right as well.
But I suppose we've actually done quite well in terms of points difference as well. 24-3, plus 21. It's got to be pretty good.
We sat second in the table, just behind them down the road. I won't mention the name, but
That'll do me.
Week 1.
So
good start.
I think that's done. But we had a little treat for you boys. That, of course, one of the other big things that happened on Friday night, that man of the match was given to Bennard Janse Van Rensburg. And we did say last season that he never really got a man of the match, even though he was the best player every time. And then the one time he got it last season, his post-match interview was so full of cliches that it was like, this guy is a legend. Because
like someone wrote it for him.
And of course, we both deliver quite a lot of cliches ourselves, but also quite like to listen to them. So I thought, you know what I'll do, boys? Let's listen to the whole of the Bennard post-match interview through, and obviously the listeners can hear it as well, and we'll comment on it afterwards. So here we go.
Let's do it.
This is for everybody who is listening. This is Bennard's post-match interview.
Well, Bernard, maximum points from a tough trip up to Newcastle. How do you look back on day one?
Yeah, definitely. No, we're very happy with the 5 points we got away from today. Newcastle away, first game of the season. It's obviously not the easiest one. We knew they were going to make it tough for us today, and they did. They made it really scrappy. But credit to the boys for just sticking to what we've been doing this whole 8 weeks in pre-season. And go away with 5 points.
You ended last season like an absolute steam train. I think 7 wins out of 8, 50-point scores 4 times on the bounce. How far can this team go? Are you guys thinking, dreaming of what could be in 9 months' time?
Yeah, no, exactly. Start of pre-season, that's what we spoke about. Just continuing with that momentum we had last season, end of last season. So, I have a lot of belief in this team. I reckon we can take it all the way. We just have to stick as a team, and if we keep doing what we're doing, we know it's difficult for other teams to play against us on that day. So hopefully we can just keep that momentum, throughout the whole season. like you seen last season, it's 1 or 2 games where you lose by 1 or 2 points at the death, and that might be you making the top 4 or not. So yeah, it's going to be really important for us to sort of just keep that momentum and keep going.
Pat Lam tells us you're a bit of a joker in the camp. You're calling AJ McGinty Joe Biden. I'm sure there are some nicknames we can't broadcast on Discovery. Tell us a bit about your role behind the scenes, your role within that environment.
Yeah, I'm a South African, it's people making fun of my accent and, so I have a nickname for almost everyone. It's just easy for me. I feel like, that's how I get tied to people as well. I've good bonds with everyone, just by calling them a simple nickname. All of a sudden, every morning I call them that nickname. I put a smile on their face, they put a smile on mine. And, first when I started calling him that, everyone just laughed, and then I kept calling him that, so now everyone's calling him that, even Coach Pat. So, I'm just trying to make it a fun thing, it's rugby, so enjoy it. It's so fun to play rugby, and we have to enjoy it. So I'm trying to bring that enjoyment to.
Well, lads,
that's brilliant.
that was
Love
brilliant.
it.
We
That
love
was
that guy
brilliant.
so much, and we're just gently teasing, aren't we? But it was a great start where he said, "So Bernard, a tough game," and it was definitely no. But it was definitely no. It wasn't a no. It was a definitely no. And he then launched into a lot of knows, but we all struggle from that. To be fair, a lot of knows, but not as many cliches as the last time. I was a little bit disappointed.
And also, he didn't use that phrase that the Australians tend to use, always look.
Yeah.
They always go look, and that drives me mental.
But he did get a credit to the boys in there.
He did.
He did. Credit to the lads.
And he did do, let's just keep doing what we're doing,
Yes.
which was fun. And
momentum was mentioned a few
lot.
times.
He's off to Coach
But
Pat.
I love that. It's just,
I love it.
well, the Coach Pat is just, I can't imagine that anybody in the squad will call him Coach Pat.
No.
Unless they've been watching Ted Lasso or something like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Coach Pat is so South African.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
It just made me laugh. But then, of course, this whole interview then went down a different tack of the fact that Bernard is some sort of joker behind the scenes, and has called everybody's got a nickname for everybody. And I mean, I've got to say, no offence, but Joe Biden for AJ McGinty, I'm not quite sure. Because he's got an Irish accent as well.
doesn't he?
It's like a very vague link.
Vague American
and actually it's a
link,
little bit
isn't it?
out of date now, isn't it? Because,
Is he saying
I
his
would,
mental faculties
yeah,
are
well,
super?
if he had been a bit
We
more
know his
subversive, if he'd been a bit more subversive, he could have called AJ Donald Trump or something like that, which might be a little bit funnier. But I mean, I do think it's brilliant. So basically, we now have this thing that, and obviously, he let rip that he's been ribbed for his South African accent. You can imagine.
I wonder what his nickname is.
Well, I wonder.
Yeah.
Someone's got to come on. Someone's got to find this out and tell us what sort of ribbing that Bernard has had.
Yeah.
But I do think it does now give us something to contemplate over the whole season, which is to work out what do you think his nicknames are for all of the squad.
And also, I mean, joking aside, we're we've been in dressing rooms, Pete, Miles not so much, but the banter.
Allotment committee meetings.
Yeah.
Hang on a minute. Been in a rugby dressing room in my youth.
That's true, actually.
But okay, so we'll all agree then the banter actually is what makes the whole squad perform, isn't it? I mean, you always have to have that when you go onto the field. When you go onto the pitch, you fight for each other, don't you?
Yes.
And so anything that works in our favour, any nicknames that Bernard can throw at everyone else. If it works, it works, and I'm all for it.
I just want him to get man of the match
every
week.
Yeah.
I just think the guy, and actually if you watch that, I'm sure a lot of people have seen this anyway because it was on socials, but if you watch him when he says it, he's just, I mean, it's just his mullet. I just can't, makes me laugh, but he's just he's just smiling the whole way through. He just seems like the most,
such a nice
and actually
guy, doesn't he?
seems to, I just have this theory that one of the reasons he's so good is because he doesn't really overthink stuff. He's just like he said, he loves playing rugby. He does the basics, does the bits and pieces. Well,
He does them very well.
he does them very well. So, we salute Bennard Janse Van Rensburg.
Absolutely love him.
And we look forward to doing this feature a few more times. But anyway, boys, I think we need to move on. So we've got an exciting week to come for some of us. Well, you're going on holiday, but
we should mention the women.
yeah. Oh God, yeah, do that now.
Fantastic.
quick.
Yeah.
Fantastic result yesterday. Is it 31-21
Yeah.
in the end against Gloucester?
Yeah.
So well done, ladies. That was 2 out of 2 for
good.
this weekend.
Yeah, and then of course we have our own appointment with Gloucester next Friday, the first home game of the season.
We do.
Now, obviously, did the double on Gloucester last year, and the game at the Gate wasn't great for them. Sort of 51-28 to us, I think, and
absolutely.
Was actually one of the big try scoring occasions for us. So yeah, lots of things to think about. Not only the first game of the season, but the first game back at Ashton Gate, and it'd be interesting to see what the atmosphere's like and what new things have come. Of what we're going to be done by Ashton Gate for fans and so forth. We might come to that. But before we talk about it, I got in touch with a good friend of the pod, Ed Price from Cherry Jam, our equivalents down at up at Gloucester, and trying to think down. I was thinking down at up at, and he spoke to me today actually. So he spoke to me after they'd had their game against Saracens and we'd had our game, and this is what he said. Okay, so I'm really, really happy to be joined again by Ed Price of Cherry Jam podcast, the Gloucester Rugby podcast. And Ed, great to speak to you, obviously, but you are a kind of similar beast to Bears Beyond the Gate. You started your podcast up, I believe, 5-6 seasons ago.
We did, yeah. Nice to see you again, Pete. It's always good to see you. We started in April, May time of 2020. Sort of full-blown COVID era, and remarkably managed to survive all the way through. You've actually had some proper success. We've won a Mickey Mouse Cup, it's been pretty bleak since. So I think we've done pretty well, both of us. I mean, you've had a bit more, a bit more fun, a bit more success. It's good to have a fellow podcast out there that kind of gets the same ideas that we do.
Good. Yeah. Well, that's why we always like to talk to you, basically.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, we had a good end to the season, having been kind of next to you for quite a lot of it last year in the table. Your season wasn't great, to be honest, and that's just from listening to what you've said.
Yes.
So I just thought it'd be interesting if you just kind of give our listeners the general thoughts on how Gloucester got on last season. And then maybe we'll sort of segue into yesterday's game and sort of figure out was yesterday's game just a continuation of that, or have you got grounds for optimism for this season?
Yeah, I mean, last season, I think understatement of the year, it wasn't a great season. Yes, we did win a trophy, but it is the Premiership Cup. You shouldn't really get too excited about a competition which, for the majority of it, is designed for academy and fringe players. The season started pretty brightly. We got a couple of wins in the Premiership. We had that good pre-season mixed with that Prem Cup run, and then a combination of injuries and basically a really, really poor form of rugby just knocked the wind out of not only, I think, the players but the supporters. So we were getting towards sort of January, February time, and there were some good wins in the Challenge Cup, and obviously that did lead through to the final, but it felt like from about February onwards, we're just waiting for the season to end and maybe just targeting those cups. And I think the big one, as probably your listeners will probably remember, was the 90-0 loss away to Northampton. And that's from a psychological point of view, is going to be interesting to see how that develops over this season and whether we can get over that, particularly when we do play Northampton. There's been a change in the style of the rugby we want to play very openly. The club have come out and said, right, we're moving away from last season. We're going to draw a line under it. I think, unfortunately for the club, the supporters haven't quite drawn a line under it yet. It just isn't good enough. And I think supporters are quite rightly pointing out the failures of last season. No matter what is done in terms of style of rugby, we need to win rugby games. Yesterday, talking about segueing into yesterday, Saracens, it was interesting before the game, and we were part of this. There was a bit of optimism, remarkably, You looked at that Saracens side, and you thought, "Do you know what? We can beat these." They don't have those big beast names of the past in that squad. A lot of their England players were on the bench, and you thought, "Well, do you know what? If we can get into them as a young side, might be able to get into them, maybe get a lead, get the crowd on side, if we're particularly with this apparent new brand of rugby." And first 10 minutes was all right. There's a bit of intensity. I think we had maybe one or two chances in their 22. And then Saracens do what Saracens do, and they went into our 22, scored a well worked try with a kick into the corner, and then an interception from a Gareth Anscombe pass, which that can happen. It's one of those things, and suddenly you find yourself 12-0 down, trying to find a way back into the game, and Saracens just seemed to step up, and we just couldn't live with it. And that's the real worry. And your point about the continuation of last year to this year is the lack of intensity around the breakdown was pretty obvious. If you compare the two sides, we would go into second phase ball and we'd be 5 meters back from where we originally started and and look like our plans had gone to pot. Gloucester, to be fair to them, again, most of the game defended pretty well. Gloucester played pretty well in terms of defensively. It was errors that were giving Saracens opportunities, and Saracens just took them. But you mentioned, I think the causes for optimism. Right, I'm going to do my best here. So the causes, because we've got our pod recording later. So our causes for optimism are the style of rugby was improved. We were throwing it around a bit. You could see what the players were trying, and there were a couple of little things where if the ball goes to hand or the pass is slightly better, you could see that there's something there. And I'd also say the fight at the end to get a bonus point was encouraging. The players, some of the players who have joined, I think Thomas Williams is going to be a good asset. Gareth Anscombe, I think, will come good. That was his first competitive game for over a year and a half, or over a year anyway. I think that also the really good thing to see was George Barton playing at fullback, had an absolute stormer, looked really, really comfortable, seemed to have bulked up, and that's going to be a big thing for him. And you can feel there's enough in the squad there to get more wins, and if we play that type of rugby, we're going to get more points. But there's that little thing in the back of your head about the realism around it. We're not going to be a top four side. So it's okay. What's the optimism? We've got to finish higher than ninth. And I can see it's maybe finishing seventh, possibly. But you think I'm looking at this and got Bristol on Friday night, and we've then got Sale away, Bath at home, Leicester away, and then Newcastle in this first block of fixtures. And you could tell yesterday that as the score was building for Saracens, that optimism within the crowd was just ebbing away, second by second. Every penalty we gave away, every knock on, you could feel it just ebbing out the crowd. And that's the danger Gloucester have got. They've got to get a win between now and Newcastle. We can't go into that Newcastle game with 0 wins.
Yeah.
And it's going to be difficult because we're playing basically the top 6. So it's going to be a challenge.
Well, I mean, you obviously mentioned Friday night, which is our first home game, and we've come out the back of a scrappy but ultimately satisfying win away at Newcastle, which I think nobody would have fancied necessarily that as the first game. So that was pretty optimistic. Although we didn't, we played okay. There was a bit of ring rustiness all round. So I mean, we as fans, we kind of assume we're going to play a bit better on Friday. So I mean, obviously last year's match at the Gate, you probably don't want to remember. It was 51-26, and although you did score a few tries, and Lewis Rees-Zammit did step up a bit. But what I'm interested in asking you is, you're talking about you've got a kind of a new style of rugby or elements of it. Do you think, which I'm assuming is a bit more expansive, but my question to you is, do you think that we will see that evident on Friday, or do you think George Skivington may kind of look at the big picture and and maybe try and do what Newcastle did, and maybe try and spoil a bit more, and try and wind us up, and so on. So really, what I'm saying is, what do you think will happen on Friday?
Well, I mean, all the noises from the club this summer has been about the style of play, the style of play, the style of play. That's been pretty much the whole comms around what's going to happen this season. So for if we were to go back to what we did last year, which was a lot of kicking, a lot of box kicking, basically giving you the ball. Well, we saw what happened when we did that last year. We got absolutely smashed. So I would hope that George Skivington is true to his word and we stick to this expansive style of play. I think it's going to suit both sides. So I think if we play expansively, that's going to give Bristol an opportunity. But equally, Bristol, if you continue to play that expansive style of rugby, which we all personally really enjoy, even as Gloucester fans, it's great to watch it. That means we'll get chances. So it could actually be a really open, expansive, very exciting game of rugby, high scoring, I would suspect. And I think really from Gloucester's point of view, the optimism is still there because we can see that there is some method in this. I think there's probably times where we could be a bit more pragmatic and there maybe play a little bit more to what's in front of us. So there was a lot of space, for example, in the backfield for the first 30, 40 minutes against Saracens yesterday, and we didn't really look to expose that. I mean, mainly because Saracens' blitz was excellent. But I think it could be a very high-scoring game. I think if we came out of it with a bonus point, most Gloucester fans would be pretty comfortable with that. We've had a bit of a shocking record down at Ashton Gate in recent years. I don't think we've beaten you since you've come back up, actually. So to try and get a win was going to be difficult. But the whole way of changing the style of rugby means you may get more opportunities to win those games you're not expecting to. Like Bristol last season, you were on a horrible run, and I think you could almost tie it from that game against Gloucester, maybe the week before, was the turning point in the season. And albeit for a bit of a shock result at the end of the season, you would have been top four. So I think all in all, it could be, and I'm hoping it will be a very open and exciting game, as I said.
Yeah, no, I think that's really fair comment. You mentioned a couple of new players, Thomas Williams, Gareth Anscombe, and then you've mentioned George Barton. Any other players that our listeners should be looking out for, maybe in the pack that feel are up for a bit of some of the younger lads that have got something to prove? Well,
the under 20 prop for Zogbon started yesterday and looked good. It's obviously very difficult because there weren't actually that many scrums. I think we had about 4 scrums in the time he was on. One of a Bristol old player, obviously, Jamal Ford-Robinson, he actually did make an impact when he came on yesterday. So I would expect him maybe to start and for Zogbon to come on. And in the pack, other team players in the pack, we are lacking a bit in the second row. So I think Freddie Clark started on the bench yesterday, and I'd expect Freddie Clark again to start in the 15, because whenever he plays, we do tend to play a little bit better. Obviously, we've got Zach Mercer. The key was Zach Mercer is giving him the opportunity in space. We haven't really done that much. Yesterday, he didn't really have an opportunity. So that will be a thing. If he gets some space and chance to run, that could be a big thing. Overall, this is the thing. You look at the squad and you think, okay, there's a few gaps. I say second row is a little bit light, and we're relying on a bit of youth around there, and in the front row is our cover. But actually, we're pretty well stocked in most places. I think it just comes down to the coaching, and we've been pretty open about our stance on the coaches. But if we can get the coaching right, we can get slightly better stuff off set play and maybe get rid of the errors, you could start to see something change. But the only other player I'd mention, actually, just in terms of the overall squad, so Charlie Atkinson and Seb Atkinson, again, they are going to be very important players this season. They played sort of bit parts last season. Seb Atkinson definitely made a bit more of an impact than Charlie. And I think what we'll see is as the season progresses, they'll start to rotate a little bit more into the squad and into the first 15. And again, Seb Atkinson made a real difference yesterday with his direct running. So I think it'll be interesting to see if he starts alongside Alex Llewellyn rather than Chris Harris.
Okay, lads. So that was a forensic debrief on Gloucester. And I mean, Ed speaks very, very well. He's clearly very knowledgeable. But anything come out of that you feel that we should be interested in?
The biggest thing for me that was quite a strong Gloucester team playing Sarries.
It was, yeah.
Wasn't the strongest Sarries team. I feel if they try to play their expansive game at Ashton Gate, I think they will get absolutely murdered. Because, in my opinion, and I obviously don't watch as much Gloucester rugby as Ed does, but I don't think I would say, to be polite, they're transitioning. I don't feel that they've got the players at this moment in time to play that expansive game.
No.
And I feel they will, if they try to play us at our own game, running rugby, I think they're going to be in big trouble. I don't know what you boys think.
Potentially. I mean, I only switched on and watched the last 10 minutes of that game, and I could definitely see a different style of rugby than they played last season.
Yeah.
It was, they
had to.
They had to, right? Because they were down, they were up against the wall against Saracens with some, a lot of players have moved on. But, you look at that Saracens team sheet, and they're no mugs, are they? They'll beat any side on the day. And in the last 10 minutes, I thought they were going to get the bonus point, the fourth try. They were running it against Saracens, picking and go, really flipping quick. And it just reminded me of the way that we tried to play. You're absolutely right. They were playing on a plastic pitch. They come to Ashton Gate next Friday night. Try and play that sort of game against the players that we've got, and it could come unstuck very quickly. I mean, hats off. That last 10 minutes, I loved watching that Gloucester game. It was very different to the Gloucester of old, but it might come all picked apart next Friday.
No, I agree. I mean, I'm looking down that Gloucester side. There's some great players in there.
Yeah, there is.
I mean, we've got Welsh international halfbacks,
yes.
Thomas Williams, Gareth Anscombe, and Gareth Anscombe is a quality player.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Clearly, it's been out a long time.
Injury-free.
Yeah. They've got Thorley, and then they've got Christian Wade, who's come back. And,
of course, from his
Wade
NFL days.
He's not going to have got any slower, I don't think.
Yeah.
And then in the pack, Zach Mercer, Ackerman. They've got some. They've got
the centres. They've got Chris Harris. They've got Chris Harris and Max Llewellyn in the centres.
My only worry with Gloucester is that they're the sort of team that when it clicks, they could actually do some damage on some teams. And I just hope it ain't Friday.
next Friday.
But I do think that I agree with you is that if they go for the open game, I think we've just got more firepower and more experience and more recent momentum to beat them at that game.
The one thing I would have loved to have asked Ed was, considering the player, I know there's some new additions this season, but considering the players that they've got there, why did Skiverton play the type of game they did last with the box kicks? And I mean, it was almost like I didn't get it last season. And my mate Andy Hill was probably he stood there on the in the shed thinking, with his head in his hands last season, because they got better players than that. I didn't ever understand that kind of.
I mean, you're right. You look
policy.
at that. You look at that team sheet, and that is absolute class, isn't it? In most Premiership teams, and I just don't know why it didn't click last season.
Well, with all that in mind, let's have a quick think. Based on the game, our starting lineup on Friday. Let's hope that. Let's assume AJ is fit. Do you see any changes on this coming week? I mean, the only thing I would throw out there is the fact that comment that one of our fans made is that you don't often see Jake Heenan starting a game, and that was don't. So. Can you see any, rather than us go through every single position for Friday? Can you see any changes at all? That's my question to you.
I don't know if I would. I don't think we've got anyone this kind of
fit
enough to step in. And I think that the performance was brilliant on Friday night, and I think we're confident in the players that we've got.
And I think when you look at the pack, you're probably looking at players that are actually know that they're going to come on. So I think front row, I think Woolmore and the Heath. And Kloska and Genge are going to be interchangeable. I think that is the nature of front row.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that Harry Thacker pulled out last minute.
Might
I mean,
have been
Ogray
just-
is a great replacement. I
Yeah,
thought, I
yeah.
like Ogray.
Yeah.
But come on, but Thak's at home on Friday
Yeah,
night. I
so
mean, it's hopefully it's
I think-
a mild sickness, and,
Yeah.
and
I mean,
perhaps he's back in the fold.
I'd quite like
for
to see
Friday.
Thack start
I would.
on Friday, and that's no disrespect to Ogray. I think they're very similar players. Actually.
HIA for Warmore, we don't know quite
Yeah, we're
the
not
outcome
sure.
of that, do we? He might be out for
Possibly.
Yeah,
out for this
I mean,
weekend.
Luatua, fingers crossed, he didn't pick anything up, and actually Heenan, maybe he's on a second wind, maybe he's,
He's. I mean, even though he doesn't start many games, he's actually he's been here for a long
Exactly.
time now,
Quality
and he knows the
operator.
system.
and you know what about Heenan?
And he's a team player,
and he's also intelligent.
yes.
You don't run 3 coffee shops in Bristol if you don't know what you're doing, and
Yes.
he's an intelligent player.
Yeah.
Batley Dunn. I just think is there a better at the moment, really, in terms of consistency, a better. And a better lock partnership, and the fact Ed pointed out that's where an area where they are a bit light. I think they can look to dominate. Genji just looks like he's mean.
Yeah. Well, it's like we said, if the pack is good, the scrums are good, then we've got platform to
Yeah.
run, and I think we will.
I guess the caveat is that we've got a youthful second string front row, and that's nothing against the guys who come
Yeah.
on the Gloucester, the Capon, etc. But yeah, okay, hands up. I did criticise the guys that came on in the second half, and Woolmore had, Genji had to come back on. But yeah, that's a tough gig against Gloucester at home. They're a big unit and they scrum hard. Let's not deny that it's going to be a tougher gig in the scrummage against Gloucester than Newcastle. And they're going to push us back. So, when we tire a little bit and maybe the Genge comes off and the Leaf come off and etc., and then we bring our, bring our youngsters on, might just say, a Jan Thomas on the bench might be a bigger bit of grunt that we need. Just putting it out
Like
there.
it. Well, I agree with you all. I think not many changes, and I think the fact that the intent was shown up in Kingston Park to play rugby with that team, I think the intent will be shown at home. A couple of other things. I mean, obviously it's the first week. It's the first
Home game.
it's the first home game of the season, and that doesn't just mean watching the rugby. It means us sort of observing what's going on at Ashton Gate. We've got things
Tarting
like
ourselves down at the ground, you mean, mate?
We've got what things we've got to think about. We've got to think about beer
Looking good?
queues.
You're looking good?
Beer
Well,
queues.
You've got to think about the weather as well.
The weather.
boys.
Yeah.
But also, I'm talking about other things we need to comment on.
Go on then.
People coming. It's a Friday night game, which always rings danger bells of people coming up the wrong aisle.
In dry robes.
I mean, there could be dry
happen.
robes. There's if the weather, as rightly so, if the weather's bad, there's going to be high intensity of dry robe wearing. We could see a few students in kind of,
Yeah.
those
You're
sort of
right.
tight jeans
They're
and then
back
sort of
in town
Chelsea
again.
boots
Yeah.
coming up the
Mates
wrong aisle.
rates lends itself to many a fan,
There's
doesn't it?
there is that danger of the Friday night.
Well, the problem
crowd.
is the Duchess and her mate are coming.
Oh God. Oh,
So,
God.
mate, Lee, I think you timed your holiday perfectly. I just want to put it out there.
I've missed a bullet there, haven't
But
I?
Absolutely.
it is great fun, and I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to getting down to the old Bristol Beer Factory pop-up bar. But boys, we know, but we're now going to reveal to the listeners that there is going to be a new alcoholic beverage pretender
Yes.
on town.
What?
None
Hang on.
other than ex-Bristol and Bath and England second row forward, friend of the pod, Mr. Dave Atwood. We have it on good authority, partly because we've spoken to him, is that he is going to have his apéro bar down at Ashton Gate this season. His apéro bar is going to be...
Do you say Aperol?
No, it's Aperol is the drink, but it's called the apéro bar.
Oh, okay.
fair
All
play,
right.
fair
So
play.
this is one of
I'm sorry for that.
This is one of Dave's post rugby spin-offs, and we've chatted to him about it. And he has got a pitch in the fan village, and he's also hoping to have a pitch inside. And I said, well, why wouldn't I? I said we'd promote his.
I
his
love Aperol.
Apéro. So basically, of course, Miles initially said it could be quite cold on Friday. It's like it's an
Yeah,
I
apéro,
agree.
spritz, and all
Yeah,
that
it's a
kind of
summer
summer
drink.
drink. But no, Dave's got a business plan.
What?
So here it is.
Go for it.
I actually sent him a message today. and said,
I'm
"Look,
intrigued.
Dave, we're recording the pod tonight. Is there anything you want us to say to promote your new venture?" So he said, "Hi guys," with a massive exclamation mark. I am definitely going to be there on Friday. I'll be in the fan village for sure, hoping to be serving hot cocktails as well,
What?
Miles.
Hot.
Yeah.
I'm sold.
Hopefully in the concourse of the main stand as well. So hopefully I'll have 2 sites.
Brilliant.
So what I'll be selling is Aperol Spritz, Lemon Spritz, Raspberry Mojito, but also hot cocktails will be mulled limoncello, winter Aperol, and a fireside hot toddy. But wait,
hang on,
hopefully,
hang on.
this is Dave Atwood,
Yeah.
ex-England International,
Yeah.
Bristol Bar. Hopefully, I'll see you there.
Good
Exclamation marks.
lad.
Oh, I really am.
Right. I'm definitely up
I've
for a
missed
hot.
this. I can't believe I've missed
I'm
this.
definitely up for a hot Aperol on a sort of chilly, an autumnal Friday evening.
Okay, so the only thing that worries me,
Yeah.
and
You're
this
not
is
there, mate.
directly apart from the fact I'm not there, I just hope that if it's hot, I hope that the alcohol hasn't boiled over because obviously you boys want some strength in your.
Yeah.
You're being a bit. You're being a bit.
I mean,
picky,
I just
aren't
know
you, mate?
when it comes to alcohol, these things need to.
We're going to be in a bit of
right.
a rock and a hard place, me and Miles, because we hopefully will get our 2-pint milk stout, but we're going to have a lemon spritz chaser with
I
it.
know in that shit.
And you've got to watch the game as well.
And the game.
And you know what Miles is like after a couple of beers.
It could be
You're
disaster.
going to have to
You
look
know,
after him and take all the notes.
Can you
for next
imagine
week's
a
pod.
2-pint milk stout and an Aperol chaser? I'll be all over the floor.
But what,
You'll need a Nasda trolley to take it.
but what we need to hope is that Dave has got these little like
Bears beyond the
sort of
gate.
Bears beyond the gate,
Under the counter.
stackable cocktail cups. Now there's an
Which
idea.
is something that
so you hold
we've
your
been working on.
Yeah, so you hold your double pinter in one hand, and then you've got your little cocktail in your pocket, like hanging out the pocket.
Right.
Anyway, so that was a big long advert for Dave Atwood.
Wow,
And
well
it's, but
deserved.
I'm sure everyone will know it's there because it sticks out. It's like big orange. It's like one of those horse boxes he's got.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
but anyway, we had a bit of a chat. Dave actually, just to why not? Let's tell him. Dave actually contacted us about 2 weeks ago to ask us where was the best place to put his thing because we are the only fans that he knows. Because apparently his girlfriend said, "Well, you surely should know some fans. Ask them where's the best place to put it." And he suddenly realised he didn't know anyone apart from us. And then he said the reality was he's never been to Ashton Gate as a fan because he's always come in as a player and he has no idea what's going on an hour before. So Dave,
I hope that you boys don't let him down.
Well,
because
definitely
marketing
won't, mate. We
strategy's
definitely
got
won't.
it's got to go. It's got to be positive. I won't be there because normally, if I'm there, we're winning.
yeah.
But hopefully, you boys will keep it going
Well, anyway,
until next time.
So that's something to look forward to for all of us.
Yeah.
The game and also Big Dave's
Big Dave Atwood.
Aperol horse box or whatever it is. And I hope. Well, I'll tell you what. Just to make us look good, if you do go up and buy something, say if you tell him or whoever's serving that you heard all about it on Bears Beyond the Gate podcast, that might be a good sponsorship deal for us a bit further down the line. So we'll appreciate your support on that. Anyway, I think we've got to finish, boys. Otherwise, we won't.
Other sponsors will be annoyed.
Other noise. So great. We're looking forward to the home game. You have a great holiday, Lee. It's one of these things. Things
Thank you,
happen.
sir.
We'll keep you updated what's going on. And Miles, I'll see you.
See you
on
Friday night down at the gate.
And
Hope our
fingers.
seats have been dusted off, haven't we?
I was hoping that they might have some gold sort of plating on our little seats. But anyway, let's see.
Well, let's
and hopefully it will be a great night. We all hope for a win.
Yeah.
And as we say, boys, 1, 2, 3.
Come on, Bears!
Bears.